grandstanding, may I invite Mrs. Gloria Poe, Director of Academic Affairs, GIMPA, for the opening prayer.
Thank you for this opportunity. Shall we close our eyes in prayer? I want to thank you for this afternoon. Thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for the opportunity to meet. Your word says in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 1, that write a vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that with it. Therefore, we thank you for this opportunity for your servant, the Honorable Minister, who is here to make his vision plain to us. That we, the fresh graduates in higher education, may come with it as we compete. Therefore, we are asking for vision, we are asking for understanding. That at the end of the presentation, in the various questions and answer time, everything will be clear. That even as we run the vision of tertiary education, everything will go smooth.
It's live now here, right? I'm trying to get the link, but I'm not getting the link here on the phone. That's the problem.
Okay, you let me go to the Facebook account and see if I can pick it.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Our guest of honor and special speaker for this afternoon occasion, the Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Dr. Yaw Osei Adutwum. Our chief host for this afternoon occasion, the Chairman of Council, Mr. Kofi Asante. The Chairman for this afternoon lecture, the Rector, Professor Philip Nebo Simpson, members of Council here present, Director General of GTEC, that is Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, Vice Chancellors here present, registrars, finance directors from other universities, other members of the higher education fraternity, members of the media, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Benjamin Franklin said, without continuous growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. With this, I would like to warmly welcome you to this afternoon occasion, the public lecture to be delivered by the Honorable Minister of Education. Without wasting time, may I respectfully invite the Chairman for some welcome remarks. Chairman.
Honorable Minister, good afternoon, and good afternoon, colleagues, Vice Chancellor, Registrar, people of what the party. I think welcoming. It is appropriate and proper, that the Minister of Education should have the opportunity of telling the whole country what he has as minister going forward. And it's also appropriate that he should come here to him, that we should have a platform for him. As always, I look at the audience, but the point is fully fair. And therefore, whatever he says, what his philosophy is, what his thinking is going forward, will be carried to the whole country. And it is important that we have in our midst the Honorable, not necessarily, but the Honorable Yaw Osei Adutwum, Minister of Education, to come and give us within the next few minutes, 45 minutes or so, what his thinking is.
Thank you very much, Chairman. May I invite the rector of the Institute, Professor Philip Ekubom, the same thing, to state the reason or the purpose of this gathering and this company fashion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary of the Institute. Chairman of the Governing Council, the Honorable Guest Speaker, Chairman, Vice Chancellor Ghana, and Vice Chancellor and Head of Education Institutions present, members of the media, all other protocols duly observed. I associate myself with the welcoming remarks of our Chairman of the Council. This year marks the 60th anniversary of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration. And with the recent assumption of office of the Honorable Minister, perhaps two birds could be killed with one stone. This afternoon, we shall be having the opportunity of receiving from the Minister, in a sense, his mission statement, his policy directions, and we will have the opportunity, perhaps, in circumstances more private than this afternoon, to interact with him on those aspects. Because it's fitting and proper for us to appreciate what it is all about, interrogate, suggest, to enable operationalization and success. Education is definitely key to development. It is indeed the most central development. And the purpose of all education is to prepare the student for the future, to be functional and useful in society and to contribute to its growth and development. So we shall get into it. Hopefully we will touch on aspects of basic education, which is the foundation. If the foundation is weak, nothing proper can be built on it. And too often secondary education is based on the weakness of basic education, and tertiary education lays the weakness of the student to receive from the second level, and employers blame universities and the like for bad production. So foundational education is key. But secondary education is a bridge, and without a solid bridge between initiation and destination, we shall not arrive. What that is planned for secondary education. But in my view, and most importantly, because that's the sphere in which I operate, what about tertiary education? In my view, it is the most impactful, because it is immediately after our products are released onto and either serve or inflict themselves in society. So what are we going to be hearing about higher education and its resourcing and funding for our lecturers and for research, capital projects, and the like? We are eager to hear all of these, and I wouldn't stand in the way. Hopefully during the question and answer time, we can interrogate that. Our guest speaker lecturer this afternoon is Dr. Yaw Osei Adutwum. He was born on the 9th of April 1964 at Chachi in the Ashanti region of Ghana. He obtained a bachelor's degree in land economy/business administration with a major in real estate from the Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Ghana. I believe his right hand side here. He holds a master's degree in education management from the University of La Verne, California, and a PhD in educational policy planning and administration from the University of Southern California. He is also an alumnus of Kumasi High School in Ashanti region, where he obtained his A-level education. Our guest speaker is the founder of the New Design Charter Schools in Los Angeles, California. to this. He worked as mathematics and information technology teacher at the Manual High School at Los Angeles, California for 10 years. During this period, he founded the International Studies Academy, which served as a small learning community for students to thrive academically and politically. He also served as the lead mathematics teacher at the University of California, that's the Manual High Neighborhood Academic Initiative. He was part of the task force established by the National Research Center for Career and Technical Education to develop a national model for career and technical education in high schools and colleges in the United States of America. In March 2017, Dr. Yaw Osei Adutwum was appointed by His Excellency the President Nana Addo to serve as Deputy Minister of Education, and in 2019, he was voted the best performing Deputy Minister of the Year by two research bodies, namely Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability and the PAC Investigative Services. At least for these awards, he deserves an applause. Our guest speaker is the Member of Parliament for Osunpe constituency in the Southern region of Ghana. He is also part of the Works and Housing Committee as well as the Poverty Reduction Strategy Committee in the 7th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. He is passionate about education. Education is what has brought him thus far, and it has afforded him all the opportunities he has had. Born in the deprived town of Delhi, his only lifeline was education. Yes, he had dreams of a Ghana where every child, regardless of their background, whether poor or privileged, will be afforded equal opportunity. Access, equity, quality, and relevance is what he intends to bring to education in Ghana. He believes that the whole school reform, with emphasis on STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, big components of it, a review of our curriculum to make our graduates fit for purpose will drive socio-economic development of Ghana and get it right to turn the fortunes of the nation around. He has a dream, and that dream is that our education will be able to shape the aspirations of Ghanaians for the transformation that we all see. He believes that to prepare Ghanaian students to be career ready, schools need to teach and adopt the forces of the 21st century, which are critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. These are the forces. The revision to our curriculum will help us realize this. As the Minister of Education, he is honored and humbled by the confidence entrusted in him by the President, His Excellency Nana Addo, and quote, if all hands are on deck, the Ghanaian dream will be a reality. You too can make it, and you too can become an even better version of Dr. Yaw Osei Adutwum. This is the profile of our guest speaker, and it remains for me now at this juncture to remove myself from the podium and to invite him to address. Honorable.
Thank you, Director of GIMPA and Chairman, for inviting me to be part of your 50th anniversary celebration. I'm honored to have our former senior minister, now senior presidential advisor, Honorable Dr. joining us here this afternoon. Chairman of GIMPA Council, Rector of GIMPA, Vice Chancellor of various universities, heads of agencies of various agencies of the Ministry of Education, the heads of various education institutions, media, alumni, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed an opportunity to be here at GIMPA and on record to deliver my education that has, I think education has brought us together today. Brought us together not because I'm the minister and about to speak to you, but it's education that made it possible for us to be invited into this room, to this beautiful place called GIMPA, an institution that has served this country very well. For many years, it has trained the civil service of this nation, and it now continues to train the youth of our nation, preparing them to be part of the transformation agenda of our nation. Of course, I would say that I'm grateful to the President for such a wonderful opportunity, for being, of course, nominated by him, appointed, approved by Parliament, and sworn into office as a Minister for Education, especially coming from the position of a Deputy Minister. When I was nominated by the President, I had a meeting with a very influential member of our party and of our country, and then at the end of the meeting, I was about to beg of leave, and he said, I want to tell you something. Education is very important, and here to the head of the President. And it's going to be one of his most important legacies. And he has handed it to you. So you have to distinguish yourself. At that point, I felt a certain kind of weight on my shoulders. And immediately I started calling friends, distinguished individuals of repute in education and industry, and I asked them, what are the 5 things that you think I need to do? And please send it to me by WhatsApp. A number of people sent me the ideas. As I read through the ideas and compared it to what I have been thinking about, the weight on my shoulders became a bit lighter. Because I felt that with those ideas from great individuals who have distinguished themselves aligned with what I thought I should deliver, I'm probably on track with the support of the President, leadership of the government to help in the transformation process to make education fit for purpose. So that education can play its rightful role in the 21st century, and in a developing country like ours, education is not an end in itself. Education is a means to an end, a means to socio-economic transformation. In the 21st century, when the 4th industrial revolution has arrived, beginning with the first steam engine, going to the second electricity, the third electronics, and now you have a situation where we as human beings can be linked up with electronics, talking about augmented reality, artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, can check your home while you're at work. Various production processes are linked up on the internet, can be monitored from afar and near. Things have shifted dramatically. There's on records that the children who are in school today, by the time they finish the universities, they have been trained for jobs that have not yet been created. So what it means is that our education system must be more agile, the education system must be more flexible. Education system should focus on critical thinking. And once you do the 4 C's of collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication, then you are preparing the children for any other job that will come down the line. You are not preparing them for a job today, which may not exist 10 years from now. Education is something that has become so critical to our very survival. Studies by the Boston Consulting Group tells us that some of the most critical things to look at in terms of socio-economic transformation in developing countries, governance, of course, very important, participation of civil society. But when they look at all the research, education was more renowned as one thing that can change the fortunes of a country. From pre-colonial era through the colonial time, various attempts were made to make sure we have a robust education system. There were many reforms that were backed upon, from the early start of schools by the Portuguese all the way to what was done, even in the time of Legislature. There was always the need to look at what kind of education system will serve the needs of our nation. We know there have been many reforms under many governments. Some were far-reaching. Some were focused on certain aspects of education. And one of the things we need to realize as we look at the issue of education reform is that we've never had opportunity of a holistic transformation. The 1987 education reform can go down in history as the most far-reaching of all the education reforms we had in this country. When we reduced the number of free high school education from 10 years to 6, middle school eliminated, and then high school, that used to be 5 plus to 7 years, then reduced to 3, junior high school created, so that we went for the American model of 6, 3, 3. And other countries were also using 6, 3, 3. That became our system. And invariably, when you look at that reform, yeah, it's conceivable that the people who introduced it had the best of intentions for our nation. They wanted to vocationalize junior high school education, for example, workshops were being built. One of the things that happened consequently, though, was that the middle school, which used to be the equitable platform for people from disadvantaged backgrounds, was eliminated. You see, for those of us who grew up in the villages, we did not go from primary school and then we went to senior high school. Some of our parents there. And I know that I went to Yasipra to senior high school. And our middle school came from the international school from Kumasi. They were the ones who were speaking the English fluently for one. Some of us were shy. If you say a word of English. They were the ones who could speak English very well. They were the young ones among us who were a bit grown up. I went from Form 3, others went from Form 4. And then these are the young ones who came from the international schools. And they were eloquent. By the time we reached Form 3, we were ahead of the curve. And we were also speaking fluently. And we were completing them. And that was what the middle school afforded us as people from disadvantaged backgrounds. We were able to use the middle school to learn more and become more mature, went to high school, and was able to compete. Middle school disappeared. The village folks now have to compete with everybody else. And we went to secondary school, and you had to select whether you were going to do science or going to do general arts. And invariably, the selection was based on how well you did on the DEC. The poor children from the village will inevitably not do on the DEC, and consequently will not be offered opportunity to do science. Making it even more challenging then for village children to then get into engineering and other self-related jobs, because they did not have that advantage of using their maturity to compete. Yes, there were benefits that came from that reform, but the equity element, which was well implemented in other nations, was missing here. US was doing 633, but in that system, government resources from the federal government went to schools that were poorly performing. So that since they are all doing the same number of years, those from disadvantaged backgrounds will not be left behind. We look at research that has been done, you're going to realize that when you have a more robust education system, your economic problems change. There are some important metrics that you have to track that enables you to know whether you are building that kind of education system. So if you look at a number of data reforms, whether it was construction of school facilities, model schools that were built under President Ford, the e-blocks that were built under President Muhammad and Mills era. Every one of them was geared towards how can we increase access, how can we create access for the vast majority of our youth. And they were great interventions. The FQ, one of the most far-reaching, free compulsory university and far-reaching education reforms that brought so many children to the school system, but the cost barrier was removed. A number of things have happened. So whether it was about looking at access, we've seen it in this game. And a number of good initiatives have been done by various governments. Now here we are at the point where we have to begin to look at how do we really get the education system to work so that the socio-economic agenda of this nation will come into fruition. Ghana beyond aid. How do we create an empty that is not dependent on other nations? And how do you do that without creating a more robust education system? An education system where your goals for transformation is measured by how well you prepare your students. So we are not just looking at assets. We are not just looking at building more facilities so that more children can go to school. But we are also looking at how do we create an education system that really gives us the critical thinkers that we need so that our nation will change. And Professor was talking about having the education system. The senior high schools will always blame the junior high schools, and universities will blame high schools and talk about they did not prepare the students well. That's why we are having challenges at the university. As the children cannot read and they cannot write. I remember this argument went on some time ago, and I made a comment that I believe that universities have a point in terms of lamenting about the students who come to them. But I believe that universities should also see themselves as a recycling plant. When garbage comes in, it has to be recycled, and something good will come out. That is, if we, I'm a high school person, have most of my experiences then. If it so happens that we will not do such a fantastic job and the children come, that's the reason why probably there should be a writing intervention program so that they don't leave the same. But it's also inconceivable to look at the fact that NACA or the Ministry of Education for that matter will develop a curriculum without fully involving the universities. As I speak with you, I've gotten concerns about students who did a break in our high schools and they have been refused admission at various universities in this country. The reason being that they reformed that break curricula without their involvement, and they don't think those children are really ready for agricultural science. They are doing animal husbandry and a number of courses in agric at the high school level, unlike what we are used to. We are used to doing agric science as a subject. You do your biology, chemistry, and then you go to the university and then you can do Bachelor of Science in agric. Now the university has said, no, we want people who know biology, chemistry, and can do agric science. We don't want people who are doing animal husbandry in high school. So we have to look at how do we change it so that we don't disadvantage our youth. So the point I'm making here is this. Universities may have a point in saying we did not prepare the students well for us. But the point we don't have is not coming together to make sure we can remove those barriers, get our children be able to realize their potential for the transformation of this country. So we have to begin to look at creating that synergy between higher education and secondary education, ensuring that courses that are offered at the high school level have linkage to the university, and also ensuring that universities work with industry in such a way that your products will also be fit for purpose in industry. So that the industry people also know say, we are not hiring Ghanaian children, we rather hire somebody from outside. I think it's happening in some areas and in some professions, and it's about time we come together and work together so that we can produce the right graduates for industry in this country. That's when education is playing its rightful role in the socio-economic transformation agenda. I believe that if we come together, we'll be able to do the right thing. So we are all part of the education ecosystem, and there's no reason why higher education should not be talking to secondary education, and secondary education not talking to graduate education, and having this disconnected kind of system that is not serving the needs of this country. Education and socio-economic transformation, of course, is well documented, and there are some indicators that you have to track in order to see how this machine works. In 1960, Ghana was doing very well economically. Unfortunately, things shifted a bit down the line. There was a meeting we had with South Koreans coming to build a university for us, part of the Eastern University. That was about 3 years ago. It happened at the Ministry of Education. I sat in the meeting. The Island Bank came to give us a loan, and they did a presentation. I thought they were going to do a presentation about the university that they wanted to establish. But they did a presentation that just showed 3 graphs. The first graph was the capital income of South Korea and Ghana in 1960, and the graph was beautiful. Ghana was better than them. And then they showed the next graph. That was the reverse. And they were showing it to us. And I was wondering, why would they want to talk about the university that you want to establish? And then the third graph was the gross tertiary enrollment ratio of Ghana and South Korea. And then, before they even showed that, they asked us, why do you guys think we have gotten ahead of you in terms of economic transformation? And of course, we didn't say anything. It was a bit awkward for somebody to come to your paper and ask me that. So we couldn't offer any solution, any answer. And then they said, let's see the third graph. And the third graph was the gross tertiary enrollment ratio of Ghana and South Korea. At that time, South Korea's gross tertiary enrollment ratio was 93.6, and ours was 16.19. And they said, this is the reason why we are here to give you a note to build the university. If you don't move these numbers up, there's no way you see your socio-economic transformation. Of course, we're looking for money from them. There was nothing much to say other than you take it in stride and say, okay, we'll do better. 2 years thereafter, we are 18.8%. We're still growing. They are still up there, 90s. So recently, when the president and the State of the Nation address said, we want to be 40%. We want our gross tertiary enrollment to be 40% by 2030. So, wow. This is a bold sector and a bold initiative. And this is a sign of a leadership. But when the president says, I want a gross tertiary enrollment ratio of 40%, when you are the minister for education, you know you have a job to do. So I saw it as my passion of how do we get there? How do we get to 40%? The next day, the newspapers carried the story by saying the president wants to grow enrollment by 40%. I said, you got it wrong. I wish it was 40%. My life would be easier. But when you look at where we are now, if you look at the young men between the ages of 18 to the young men and women 18 to 22, which is the baseline, that is you. And you look at the fact that we have an enrollment of 547,000 students in tertiary. The calculation comes to 18.8%. To get to the 40% the president wants by 2030, it means you need to grow enrollment by 300% and not 40%. But he also said he's going to support the development of the open university so that we can open the floodgates of tertiary education to our youth. You see, when you see the gross sector enrollment ratio of Mauritius, 40%, see the country growing. Morocco, 35, Egypt, about 38, thereabouts. You see ours, 80.8, even though it's way higher than the African average. The African average is 7%. So when you look at it, you see to yourself, wow. But that is the challenge of Ghana when we compare ourselves to other African countries. We have the opportunity to do more. Recently, I got off the plane from Kumasi at the Accra airport, went through the domestic airport. Some guys behind me were laughing and they were giggling. I was curious. I wanted to eavesdrop and hear what they were saying. And they were saying, wow, Ghana, we are blessed. Look at our domestic airport. This is better than the international airport of Niger. And they were talking about it, and another would show, no, even this country, we are better. And I was saying to myself, why are we not comparing our international airport to that of Dubai? And probably if we did, then we get out of the mediocrity trap that we find ourselves. Because you see, because we are better than other countries in Africa, if you are not careful, we must try to take them. And that is why I like the bold vision of the president. We're going to have to wake up, as they say in America, and smell the coffee. And begin to see that when we get to that 40%, what we need to do. I'm already putting pressure on the DTech Director General. He's my office, probably he's visited my office more than anybody, and I'm asking him, let's do this together. We have to have an action plan to move us there. Because I believe it can be done. The moment we tell ourselves that it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. But the present vision is not just about assets, not just about numbers, but he's also talking about STEM education. The goal of this country has always been a 60% to 40% in favor of STEM-related jobs. We want to get 60% STEM-related jobs. I've heard many presidents talk about it, and the ministry always write into the speech for the Minister for Education. I'm sure my senior minister may have also said something about it. 60%. That is what we are striving towards. Bringing up more engineers, making sure the STEM-related jobs are the ones that will champion. But one day we were having a wonderful conversation, and I asked the former team director, I said, Chief Director, you have about 22% of your students doing science. Why are we lying to ourselves? That somehow the 20% will become 60% when they get to the university. There's a major disconnect. But somehow that's what we are striving towards. Now here's about 31, 69 in favor of STEM. We've been talking about it for a long time. How do we break the barrier, break the wall so that it will become a reality? When we have a school system where the young child has 13, 14 is told that you are going to do general art, or you want to do general account and do general art, but you will never be allowed to change your mind for the rest of your life. Because you say you do general art, you're going to be a general art person the rest of your life. Tell us the story of Kojo Mensah who had a dream one night, and God was talking to Kojo. And God said to Kojo, Kojo, you're going to be the best engineer in the world one day when you grow up. And Kojo Mensah said, God, I know you created heaven and earth, but you don't know me. And God said, hi, sir, I don't know you. He said, God, you know what? I'm doing visual arts, and I'll never be an engineer in Ghana. I went to an exhibition at All Days University, especially by high school students. A young man had designed a robot, and the way he described it was a beautiful program with C++, and it would move. And he has done such a wonderful job. And I was just curious, I asked him, young man, what are you doing in high school? He said, sir, I'm doing visual art. So I asked the All Days University engineering dean who was with me, I said, you want to tell me that this young man will never be an engineer if he stays in Ghana? He said, unfortunately, yes. This young man will never be an engineer unless he travels to America. And then he will come back an engineer. Why have people set barriers in the world? You are the higher education folks. I'm not here to say lower your standards. But can we at least give that young man opportunity to do a pre-engineering program? And say in this pre-engineering program, you're going to do physics, you do elective math, and you do chemistry. Those are the three things you are doing. But this first step, because we did drawing, engineering art would be a wonderful cover. Do your engineering art. Do your engineering design the first year, but you are in the pre-engineering program. If you prove to us that you can do chemistry, you can do physics, and elective math this year, you will sit for the WASI so that you will tell me I'm lowering your standards. And when you pass, you can come. That young man who is excited about engineering opportunity, or that young woman excited about engineering opportunity, will do the math and will do the chemistry and do the physics, and he will surprise us. Because at that point, his desire is driving him. And when the desire of people drives them, everything is possible. I want to create your indulgence. For us to begin a dialogue where we open the floodgates of higher education to everyone and set it close to everyone. Let them prove themselves. And if they can't, at least be done apart. I'm not saying lowering the standard, but I'm saying that you have a young man who is so good at drawing and can be a great architect, and unfortunately did not do elective math in high school. Can you at least give him math 101 in the university, and because he's so good, bring him to architecture? And don't simply say that because you do not do elective math at high school, you will never be an architect. Can we begin to look at what we have done, to begin to look at how we can then link ourselves into the 60-40? Allow people to change their minds, give them the opportunity, and let's see if they can make it. If they don't, we down apart. We are not going to be able to do 60-40 in our current regime, where students are boxed in high schools, and high school curriculums have not been changed yet. So in the high school space, we also have to begin to assess what we do, to begin to see how we create a pipeline from junior high through high school to the university, to begin to look at how other nations are doing. There's a country called Vietnam. Their population is 3,000 hours. Let's put that on record. They are 90 million and we are about 31 million. That country is the 10th largest producer of engineers in the world. Because every year, Vietnam graduates 100,000 engineers. If we are to do 1/3, which means we have to do about 3,000. As of now, we're doing about 6,000. So if we were Vietnam, we'll be producing 18,000 instead of 100,000. Now, Vietnam is the center of attraction in East Asia. Countries, people are going there to set up factories. Samsung and Tool has the largest manufacturing plant in Vietnam. Vietnam has also changed its high school curriculum. When you go to high school, you have three options. Either you do the natural science, you do technology, or you do TVET. There's nothing like you women alone. Not a bad thing. But we have to keep to reassess where we are and look at ourselves and say, is that 60-40, the magic one, and if it is, how will we get it? You see, I'm not an engineer, but I've become the advocate for engineering. Maybe the strongest advocate for engineering. Because I've met engineers and they are thinking different. We all do respect very well, including myself. Engineers are good at solving problems. Because the whole training is about solving problems. Wherever they find themselves, they will come up with solutions. The same is that so more engineers is not going to help us. And by the way, they can do any other thing too. And it's not that idea of engineering in terms of technical. A number of countries are engineering principles as part of their curriculum, and they start from primary 1. There's something called engineering is elementary. Primary 2 students using engineering principles in solving challenges in the classroom and in their community. And once you move on that trajectory, you are creating a pipeline of critical thinkers. So when you hear science, technology, engineering, and mathematics championed by the president with STEM-centered principles in a number of high schools, it's not so much about studying science separately, studying technology separately, studying engineering and mathematics, but it is the idea of it all coming together so that you can solve problems together. I love inventing something and understanding that you need science, you need technology. And also, it's about how do we create a high school system that is fit for the 21st century. Our curricular reform is going to be happening very soon for high school. It's an opportunity for us to begin to look at how do we create high school students who are career ready, who are work ready, and college ready. It's about ensuring that high school students will be skilled enough to get a job and be hired. And I'm sure somebody is saying graduates cannot get a job. High school student who knows artificial intelligence, a high school student who doing networking, Cisco networking. Cisco's networking is the most respected of all the licenses or credentials you need to do computer networking. And in a number of schools around the world, it's being taught in high school. And they are getting jobs because industry is just looking for people who are qualified. It's not about the degree, it's about who have the skills. And if you can demonstrate that you have the skills, you will be able to have the opportunity. So as we move on with our reform, and as we move on with creating the opportunity for a robust education, these are the areas that we're going to have to look at. And see how do we create a well-rounded Ghanaian high school graduate who then goes to university and is well-rounded enough to do many things. I know in the current dispensation we have students doing science, they do biology, chemistry, and physics, and then integrated science, which I think we have to change very soon. We're going to work with our leaders to make sure we change that. Because somebody does biology, and does chemistry, and does physics, it doesn't give you the results. Literally, the three subjects take over. Because there are times when you do biology, chemistry, we didn't do general science. But now all the students are doing general science or doing integrated science, that takes up so much space from them. If you remove that, and then you look at elective math, elective math takes about 60% of the core math. So if you have a student who is in elective math and so advanced, conceivably you can work the elective math curriculum in such a way that it will cover everything in the core math so that you free that space. When you do that, your science students can then do a class in robotics because there's space to do that. And when you do that, then they can also do engineering as a course in high school. So when they walk into their university class in high school, they know some other engineering that they want to pursue. Those who are interested in other fields, computer science, can begin to do programming in high school. They do Cobra, C++ in high school before they get to the university. All because you eliminated integrated science. And then you begin to look at how do I get them to do at least 1 year of government and economics so that they understand the country that they actually are in, how the country is governed. And don't forget history of Ghana. So there are a number of things that we're going to have to do as we create a high school curriculum that fits the 21st century. And these are the barriers that have to be removed so that the Ghanaian child who does science can also have at least 1 year of English literature. And can read and write well, and can compete with anybody, and can go to the universities as well-rounded individuals who knows their country and who knows their work. So, when the Vice Chancellor, the rector, was talking about your vision, I have no vision other than the vision of the president. the president who appointed me, and his vision is what I champion, bringing my own little personal side to the process and my years of experience in education. But I also understand that those of you in this room are individuals with great expertise in various fields, and your contribution is going to be so critical as we move forward in fashioning an education system that will lead to the socio-economic transformation of Ghana. I'll talk about the cross-section enrollment ratio. I'll talk about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and what we need to do in that area. We also know that creative arts is something that we need to promote. For the first time, the president directed the former minister to build a creative arts senior high school. It's under construction now in Kumasi. And we made sure that we were not going to build a creative arts senior high school where all science students will not go because I don't like creative arts. Sci-fi movies, creative arts products, but from scientists. And when they talk about various inventions, the cell phone, the first time people saw it, they saw it in a movie. Then the mindset began to shape that, hey, if they use it in the movie, it can become something that they use. So movie makers invariably are the people who bring these inventions to the fore. So scientists should find space in the movie industry to challenge our thinking. And that is why the Creative Arts Senior High School in Kumasi has 12 science laboratories. 12 science labs in that school. So students who are doing science will go there too, but they'll get the opportunity since they don't have to do integrated science to also do creative arts and do action and music and other creative arts subjects. We also have another 10 schools under construction that will be operationalized as 10 schools. We go to our school, we go to our school, we in the house. Pastor Pep, in the north, we mentioned about the field. All these schools are going to open in 2022 as 10 schools. And this is why the vision of the president will come alive. We also have about 20 STEM centers under construction in various senior high schools, where we can also create STEM pathways so that students who go there will have an opportunity to do STEM as a pathway, to pipeline them to the universities. So when they come to your university and they are trying to do medicine, they know something about medicine already. And they've done robotics. They know something about computer programming, but they're also solid in biology, chemistry, and physics, and will be able to do what's expected of them. I'm not saying this should be done everywhere, but I'm just saying we have a rare opportunity with the new schools that we are building. Please start the pilot. Because if you really look at the new schools that is under construction, and we call the Kufuor 3-block schools, we decided not to make it a E. But it's a V-shape. They are beautiful. I'll tell you, if you look at the school, it may be better than most high schools in the world. And after it's fully operationalized, when you enter the school, you're going to see a school that is fit for the 21st century. And the good news about high schools in Ghana is that they are national. You attract students from everywhere in the country. So even if it's located at Abobosu, it doesn't mean the student from Sapsu will not be able to come there. The way to get students from across the country who will come here and show the world that when you provide opportunities for the youth of Ghana, they will excel. When I go to various conventions and conferences before government around the world, the first thing they will ask me, how are you seeing education in Ghana and America? Oh, in Ghana here you don't have resources and you are in America, so how are you finding it? And I always tell them I'm having fun. Because you know when I was teaching in America, and when I was running schools in America, your greatest challenge was the student who is sitting in front of you. The first 3 months of every school year, you were told not to smile. you snap the student and eat you alive. Teachers do not turn their backs towards the students, they will throw trash at you. You come to Ghana, you enter the classroom, and the students stand up for you. You don't tell them to sit, they will sit. I said, Ghanaian teachers don't know what they are getting. Why I take my teaching? You can't find them. So the Ghanaian child is so ready. We have a very important resource in the human beings for the Ghanaian youth sitting in front of us in classrooms. And if we are able to create a quality learning environment that we are developing now, and be able to rehab our various laboratories in existing schools and bring about STEM education in existing schools, we are going to see a transformation that we never imagined. Because I'm comparing, I'm contrasting, I'm seeing what we can do here, what we can do better and faster in Ghana and other places in the world. So these new schools that the President has enabled us to build, teachers will be in the classroom, students will go there to study. What is the difference? In the current dispensation, students sit in their classroom. Teachers visit them. Therefore, the classroom is not a break. It doesn't belong to the teacher. So you look at the wall and say, Joe Benson was here, 1994. Written on the wall. They are telling you this is our space. And for somebody who has experience in other sections where teachers own the classrooms, and they've created it beautifully. I sit in the classroom, I love sitting in the classroom, and I get bored. I said, wow, this place is not the same. Then I begin to feel how the students feel sitting there. And sometimes when the teacher is in the staff room, he may come in late. Right? That was classroom space where there was some small break at the bottom. He may sit there and not go anywhere and wait for his students. So whereas we may not be able to change because of the facility needs, at least the ones that are coming down, the new ones, something different will happen. And students from across the country will benefit from these institutions, and by virtue of that, the pressure on the 54 Ivy League schools will go down. So Nana Land of this problem, in one school is going to add 11 high-performing schools to the 54 schools that we have for years. High-performing because they are going to be affiliated with existing high-performing schools in the country. So Abomosu, for example, will be affiliated with PRESEC. Best practices as PRESEC will be implemented there. Other schools may affiliate with Fatima. Senior Minister of Fatima doesn't have to tell. And consequently, the best practices there will also be implemented at Akrodi, St. James Senior High School, the second best senior high school in the country as of now, in Tsunami, can easily mentor another senior high school, so that it doesn't take 40 years for a new high school in Ghana to become a better high school. Thank you. So, what the president wants to do, make education fit for purpose, do more STEM education, is a holistic approach to education reform. So it's not just developing facilities and leaving curriculum and instruction. And this is what is different about the education reform that began 4 years ago in Ghana. We are not longer looking at buildings, but we are not touching curriculum. We are no longer looking at assets with free senior high school. So many children are not going to school. We are no longer doing that and leaving out curriculum. We are no longer doing quality and leaving out relevance. And leaving out relevance. So as we educate more of our youth, we're also looking at how relevant is their training to the socioeconomic needs of our country. So for the first time, we are looking at quality, we're looking at relevance, we're looking at access, and we are not forgetting about everything. We are looking at other places where people are falling behind and what we can do to bring everybody online. And that is why top performing schools have 30% set aside for students who went to public schools. Recently, a friend of mine went to a PTA meeting at Wesley Girls, and he came back and he was talking and said, oh, this time around, parking was not a problem at all at Wesley Girls. Parking was not a problem at all. He didn't seem to understand why. And I said, you know what? 30% of the parents did not come in their own car. They came with profit. That is why parking was not a problem. So the equity agenda of the government is also working. You see, the achievement of years and I hope they still do it. I'm told we recruited students from across the country, brought students from villages, and made them leaders. They recruited students, some of them they never have won a school for. And they came to achievement and became breaking through. The set aside for public senior high schools is for public junior high schools is to help us in that regard. Now, if you look at the data, and I've been examining data, I love data, of achievement on the west, and you're going to realize that there's a huge disparity between the northern regions and the south of this country. It's been written, but it's not written fast enough. The last 3 years, they have been times when, in English language, for example, if you disaggregate, the south may be 60% pass, 58% pass 1 year, and the north was 15%. The bridging of the gap is not coming fast enough. And yes, we may have economic initiatives, but if education initiatives does not bridge the gap between the north and the south, the socioeconomic bridging will not happen fast enough for all of us. So we have special initiatives that we are now looking at, disaggregating the data, meeting with stakeholders, understanding that we can do better, making sure counseling is stepped up in our schools. When counselors have to teach and counsel at the same time, effective counseling doesn't take place. I know Director General is saying we're working on it, but the Director General has to work hard on it and make sure that we have full-time counselors. After they teach for 3 years, they understand teaching. Let them do full-time counseling so that they can support us. But they go, we're only doing psychosocial counseling. We're only counseling students with behavioral and psychosocial issues. We are not even doing academic counseling, which I've been assured we will begin to do academic counseling so that when a student is not doing well, somebody talks to him and says, you know what, the way you have to do this in order for you to do well. These of discipline. As it's done, some teachers are struggling. They are new teachers. They don't know how to handle their class. Can somebody help? I know GS is working on that. One big initiative GS is working on that. We are going to give a serious boost in the training of school administrators. In our part of the world, you don't need any certification to become an administrator. After you teach for 30 years, best chemistry teacher, you become deputy director, and here you are, junior housemaster, you become headmaster of the school. And the rest of them, there are some people who only attain that when they have 2 years to retire, and they go become headmasters. 2 years to retire, what we have to do. So the former administrator training, which we are going to begin, is also going to help us to equip our school administrators with the skill set to run schools. How can you run schools and manage new teachers when you don't know the new practices that those people have been taught? When you are using the old Bloom's taxonomy, they are using the new Bloom's taxonomy. So what the teachers know, you may not even know as a head of school, because you have not received any formal training to become a head of school. So these are things that we need to work on so that as we transform schools, we are also getting leaders who can transform our schools. We've always seen this. There's a young man who was assistant headmistress at Chimota, transferred to Accra Girls, and she changed the school. She brought Chimota best practices to Accra Girls. Now here at Hantaman Girls, at Hantaman Senior High School, is changing because another person from Wesley Girls went to Hantaman, brought Wesley Girls near to the school, and the school is changing. we are going to do this proactively and not allow it to happen by chance. That if you have an industrial assistant headmaster per se, he should probably go ahead they used to at Abuja. It shouldn't be because he taught for 30 years. It should be because he has the leadership skills and then we can train him. So that he can bring the DNA of Presec to Abuja. And by the way, if we could get, I know the other general transfer grant is too expensive, but we have to do this. And send some head of department, since we are housing at Abuja, who may willingly want to go there, or when you say in the interest of the service, who can send there, to help in the transformation. So our new schools will have the DNA of the existing high-performing schools. That way it will not take 30 years. With a trained leader, with a DNA coming from a high-performing school, we can begin to see the transformation. I believe that we are sowing seeds of transformation, and we've done that in the last 4 years, and we are going to have to begin to take a serious look at how we can transform the education system of this country. Our education system will play its rightful role in socio-economic transformation. If we don't, and default to the status quo, it's going to be challenging for us. I'm not saying we don't have a good system. I'm saying that when some of us were in senior high school, it was generally the best and the brightest who had the opportunity to go. Now everybody is going. And when everybody is going, you have to look for new strategies of dealing with all the students. You cannot allow a situation where there's no intervention in our school system. We have begun it and we need to structure it more carefully. Because I really don't understand why a young man should come to a senior high school and cannot read. And we know she cannot read, unfortunately. But I will give him 4 subjects in home economics. 4 subjects. Without due regard to the fact that because she can't read, we could have given her another English intervention class. To really bring her to the level where she can read. And by the way, Western girls is doing that. So why can't our schools do that? They assess their students and they give them intervention to catch up with the rest of the class. But we create a better structure that says you can forego one of the electives and focus on English the first 2 grades. By the time they leave that school, they can read, they can write, and they will go to the university as one of the well-prepared students. So the status quo needs to be worked on, and it has to be worked on in such a way that we'll be able to get the results that we need. We've done a lot of policy. Recently, an organization came to me and said, we want to help you craft a secondary education policy and they do teaching and learning policy. And I said, no, we've had enough of policy. Let's take it. My PhD professor, Dr. Ryder, said something. He said, in Africa, the road to hell is paved with policy. He said, Africans know how to craft policy. They will write a fine policy that they did not intend to implement. And they will put on the shelf. We want to implement all policies that have been approved for us at the Ministry of Education. So when that organization came to me, I said, no. If you want to do policy, you also have to do implementation. So put some of your money into a fund so that we can use it to turn around our low-performing schools. And they've agreed, because I'm a minister. And we are going to do that. I told them, we are only going to deal with 8 schools. In those 8 schools, we are not going to tell them you have to do this. We are going to advertise in the newspaper, and we're going to set parameters and say, if your school has this performance rate, apply. Funding will come to you to do your transformation. And give them the metrics. After they go through the application process and apply, they solve 50% of the problem, but now they know the problem that they are facing. 2 years ago, I paid a visit to my famous Sujata primary school. And everybody there was telling me that the headmaster there should be kicked out. And they say he's about to retire. Make sure you understand his contract. This man has not done well for the school at all. So I went and got my statistics people to research and give me the performance of the school. It turns out that the guy has done a better job than most principals have, headmasters who have come to the school. So I went to the school and said, headmaster, everybody said you've done a poor job. Tell me what's going on. He couldn't tell me anything. He said, you know, he has praised me for everything, and I've done a good job. As a headmaster, what is your test score for the last 3 years? Headmaster did not know. He didn't know. I had it in my pocket. So we're doing a big event, and I surprised him. I said, let's congratulate our outgoing headmaster. He's done a fantastic job in this school. When he came here, your pass rate, the university was 15%. Now it is 40%. He started clapping for him. He was so excited. The headmaster. I sat one day with the headmistress of a certain school whose names I won't mention. And it's a new school, and they were doing so well. In fact, their performance on the WASI was the same level as Okoboa. And it's a new school in rural Ashanti. And I asked her, Madam, how is your school doing so well? He said, what? I won't do so well. Her pass rate on the WASI was 70%. 70% of the students, not the E7 or E8 or E7, they were 70%. At the same level of Okoboa Senior High School at the time. But unfortunately, my headmistress did not know. So I like the initiatives of Ghana Education Service now when they ask them to do a risk assessment and also sign a performance contract, which forces them to then look at their data. To begin to see how to move forward. So last year when we saw that stellar performance by the students, you can see that headmasters now know their data and they are striving for the schools to do well. But one thing that we're going to also have to deal with is the examination of practices in this country. The president spoke to it at the State of the Nation address, and I think it's something that we take seriously at the Ministry of Education. We will stamp out examination of practices because it destroys everything. We can talk about all this education reform all day. If students are cheating, they are not learning in the classroom. Teachers are not teaching. This is not happening in every school, but the report that we get is so pervasive. Last year, you know what happened at the school in Ashanti region where students went on demonstration, I think after their science test. The reason for destroying government property was because they received some leak questions and they didn't show up on the test. Can you imagine? In the country, you received leaked questions and they didn't come on the exam, so you are angry and you are destroying your property. So it has become something that we need to deal with. Part of the student psyche is that you go to the exam and you expect somebody to help you. Until we can do fully e-testing where you can't cheat, we need to do something about examination of practice by serializing examinations, by creating different versions of the same test administered in exams. What it means is very simple. Sitting next to my board chair here, people were all students on the WASI exam. His questions will be different from mine. But the same level of difficulty, there's a way to do it. And when the questions are the same, his number 1 will be my number 21. So if some teachers go and hide in the bush and come and say number 1, hey, who's A are you talking about? Whose number 1 is A? So they have to say, okay, version 1, number 1, A, version 2, number 1, B. By the time they finish that, the exam should be over. So we need to stop. Because in education, we talk about CIA, curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And we seem to think that you do your curriculum, then you deliver the instruction, you assess the students to see if they in fact met the goals of the curriculum. But in practice, assessment leads. People are looking at the type of questions that is coming on the exam, and that is how they're teaching. So if the assessment system it's not working. If it's flawed, we're in trouble. The whole curriculum instruction system is not going to work for us. And I've always asked people who wants to have a surgeon who cheated on BEC and cheated on what maybe the expected exams will grade on him. If he says that I should cheat in all my exams, would you allow the person to grade on him? No. So we need to stop it, and there's a way to stop it. We're endowed with the West African Examination Council that we have to create this organization, and Ghana will take the lead and make sure our students cannot cheat on any of our exams. And once we do that, teachers are going to teach, and students are going to learn. Headmasters are going to supervise, because they know that if we found out that they did not do what is expected of them. I'm not saying every headmaster wants to do that. There's a story of one school in Ashanti region, a woman who was being chased out of the school because she took over last year, and she said to them, no cheating in this school. The students failed, and the whole town got angry, and they were asking for her head. Take her out of the school. And the invigilator went to a school and to invigilate and went to towns that my head was in the school. And then one of the elders of the town came and said, oh, William, and Father, if you won't follow me, you people think it's normal to do that, but it's not going to help anyone else. Education in Ghana, current issues and challenges. When we look at what the rector talked about, the challenges the universities are facing, secondary education is facing, and some of the things that are confronting our system, all that I say to you, the director, that we are going to sit with you and meet with the vice chancellor to try to find solutions to the problems together. We are going to look at how we create a system that responds to the needs of the country. How do we create a sense of urgency for ourselves as a nation and say to ourselves that if our tertiary education is not robust enough, our nation will not change? Yes, I have secondary basic background. My heart is in tertiary education. Because I believe that within the next few years, 4 to 10 years, Ghana is going to change. The transformation will happen faster if we take a serious look at our tertiary education system. If we begin to look at the graduates that are coming up, begin to look at students and say, hey, now that we have the national ID, why don't every student come to tertiary and use that as part of the enrollment process so that when they get a job, you know which university they went to? And we're able to give you feedback that your economics program is so desirable on the job market, if you want to train more economics. As we speak now, you have no way of knowing. GIMPA may be the best in a certain field, but where is the data? The University of Ghana may be the best in engineering, maybe better than tech, but who has the data? At tech, maybe their civil engineering program is more desirable than all the engineering programs, but where is the data? But if we look at our system and begin to use national identification as part of our enrollment process, when that national ID is also used for income tax purposes, when that individual is working, it will register on the system and it will let us know that yes, things are happening in this sector, there are challenges here. Maybe it takes 5 years for a student from this university to get a job, and when he went to another university, it's only if you take 2 years and then ask ourselves, what are they doing? And I think it's going to also put pressure on all of us to begin to look at how we counsel our students when they are in university. I know the old paradigm is that universities are not for the creation of useful employment. I hear that argument. The classical universities will tell you that we don't exist to create jobs. We create minds, but in the 21st century, we create great minds, we find jobs. They walk into interviews and their delivery will convince the people recruiting. So I didn't know this philosophy. I rather hire you than somebody who did economics. because I know you can think critically. Wall Street in America hires more anthropologists than economists, because then anthropologists understand human beings, and therefore we able to understand the psyche of the people that we are selling investment products to. Who will think that no, Wall Street economics? No. Silicon Valley companies are hiring sociologists to write software because they say they understand society. So yes, even if the argument is that universities are not there to create jobs, I will say, in a developing country like ours, universities might be mindful of the graduates that they bring out. We need to give them the skill set so that they can secure jobs or create jobs. Whoever thought that Oxford University will be one of the best in job creation in the world in terms of helping the students to create companies? It's a traditional university that is shifted to entrepreneurship, and they have business incubators enabling their students to create jobs and benefit their countries where they come from. So we need to begin to look at how are we going to be relevant as universities in the socio-economic transformation of this country. How do we look at our practices and ensure that we will produce the graduate that this nation needs? There's going to be some dialogue with you. One thing I can assure you of is that when it comes to high school curricular development, we're going to be front and center. We are going to engage you. Your academic force will be asked to submit comments on our proposals. Because the children are coming to you, why should we exclude you? And when we include you, how will you refuse to accept our agricultural science students? Well, you were part of the people who developed. I was part of a committee some time ago, and there were some university professors on it. And when the whole thing was said and done, and there was a disagreement as to whether their universities endorsed it, they said, you know what, we came here as individuals. We did not represent the university. So I learned from that. This time around, we invite the university to send reps who will represent the interests of the university, and will work with you in such a way that we need to turn the corner on our human capital index. You know the human capital index of Ghana is 44%, which according to the World Bank, it means that we are wasting 56% of our human capital. 0.44. I don't want to compare too much, but 0.44 is very low, even in Africa. And the reason is simple, that when they look at our school system, there's in fact, they said that we have out of 11.6 years of pre-high school, 11 years of pre-high school education, our 30 year of schooling is 5.6. Yes, from KG all the way to junior high school is 11 years, and they are saying that our 30 years of schooling is 5.6, the rest is wasted. And they attribute it sometimes to what is called presenteeism. The teacher is present by his own teacher. And then absenteeism compounds. The school inspectorate authority, whose chief inspector is here, are working hard to improve things for us. By seeing when the school inspector enters the school, everything changes. Teachers perform so well. Then we leave the school with understanding that they're going to continue. What we don't understand is that when we leave, quality instruction may be. But why are we not finding out? So the World Bank tells us that we have a very high, what they call learning poverty rate. And our human capital index is low. That report was launched in Ghana, and it was a very good day for us to press. So we resolve that things have to change. That is why we are now going to have system-wide student assessment. This year, all primary 4 students across the country will be tested by us. For us to know their proficiency in English and mathematics. I hear it was done in 2008, 2006. There was a school center exams like that. That was the first and the last time, 2006 and 2008. The last time we did a census exam, which means every student taking the exam. And it's going to happen again. And then we'll do primary 6, we'll do junior high school 2, we'll do senior high school 2. The reason is this. That data is what will tell you that the student is at grade level or not at grade level, and then what strategies you need to employ. So when we assess students in primary 2, primary 3 becomes the intervention year for them. Then we assess them in primary 4. Then we go to primary 6. And we are able to know how well the students are doing. So we've done well with access to senior high school. In fact, the data I was looking at today, it was half one. You know, the Ghanaian education system has been known as a pyramid. The higher we go, the smaller the students who are there, and sometimes we say as a good description of our education system, the best and brightest get to the top. That is not the education system that will change the socioeconomic qualities of Ghana. It has to go along this way, the country up to the point, of course, but it shouldn't start out like this. And if you look at the data from the free senior high school, 3 years of senior high school, 3 years of junior high school. Junior high school public is about 1.3 million. And senior high school is 1.2 something. Getting so close, which tells you majority of our students are moving out from junior high school to high school. And if we can increase the numbers of senior high school to tertiary, then the pyramid is going to disappear. And when the pyramid disappears, the economy expands. And when the economy expands, our fortunes will change. We'll get to a place in our lives when we will say that during our time, something changed. And sometimes we may not be able to put our finger on the pulse, but we will tell ourselves there was something that President Yaw did with education, and things shifted, and life has never been the same. A free senior high school will be done. I don't understand why STEM education will not succeed in this country. We work together with you to transform our education system. How do we get there? We're going to get there by innovating in our various spaces. When we look at changing our schools to STEM, I was asking myself, when the resource going to come from, how do we transform all these learning schools into STEM? Then I saw that there were other funding sources that could be used for that. And now we are ready to build a computer lab, build a science lab, and bring children from across the country. Select our gifted and talented students to attend the school from across the country. This education, something that we talked about in the education sector, our strategic plan, have not touched it. It's going to find expression in our new schools. It's going to find expression allowing these great minds to innovate in our spaces in senior high schools and move it up to the senior high school. The first industrial revolution came and went, the steam engine. The second industrial revolution, electricity came. The third industrial revolution, electronics, also came. Did not carry Africa. But we are now going to the fourth industrial revolution, and Africa cannot afford to be left behind. When you talk about African continental free trade, headquartered in Ghana, we want to avoid a situation where other countries will produce and dump them in Ghana. If we do not innovate in our education space and get the best and talented young men to be at the forefront of industrialization, and then at least if somebody wants to establish an industry here, they will be hired to do the work. We are not going to reap the benefit of the African free trade, African continental free trade. 1.2 billion people, $3.5 trillion in terms of gross domestic product. This is an Africa others are aiming to enter. And if we don't do it, the fourth industrial revolution will pass us by. And Africa will not be the producer. Africa will be the consumer. And we will support it. Ghana has a president who has decided that we have to be beyond aid. And that he will invest in education. Invest in education in such a way that people think that it's not possible for him to do it. So the same way that he did free senior high school, I believe we can do the 40% gross tertiary enrollment ratio. When Ghana hits 40% gross tertiary enrollment ratio, with more engineers trained, with more professionals trained, this country will never be the same. And I believe that it can be done. 21st century education is something that we need to strive for. Let's for a moment forget about how we were educated and talk about the fact that the world has changed and new things need to be done. In Vegas, we talk about the good old days when we were in school. Things were different. Oh my God, things are different now. And we seem to think things are getting worse. Because during our time, things were different. I say, during my time, that is how my classmates are. How dare you tell me it should be different? The world is changing. Let us give the opportunity to the youth by making sure we have rigorous learning environment that holds them accountable. But we should not be held bound by the old set of rules which apply to us. And if we begin to look at the transformation of the country, we'll be willing to sometimes find a different way of doing things. If we look at tertiary education for its own sake, there are certain things we will never do. You leave here and say, look at that guy. Visual art students are going to do engineering. But if you think that engineering was created and created, and the highest level of learning is creation, and this young man and woman knows how to create, they know how to design, they know how to draw. And if you know that path is what gives them engineering, why are you saying that you are not even going to give him a chance to prove himself or prove herself? If we begin to see that it's not about them, but it's about the transformation of this thing. Because it's very in education and in the way we do things. We believe education is for my group. So when we talk about education, we have fun memories of how we were educated and turned out well. And then look at our children and our hopes doing so well. And then we say to ourselves, everything is great. If they can't do it because they are busy. I'm not saying to disrespect them, I'm saying to give them a chance. Allow them to put themselves so that we don't say, well, one day tell God I became an engineer in Ghana. So that we can tap into the best talent. 10% of every population based on research is gifted or talented. America has used it very well, setting up gifted and talented schools. And in districts where there is no gifted and talented school, you have a gifted and talented program within the school. These are children who are so bright and they sit in your classroom. If you don't challenge them, they get angry. You put them in one school and the innovation that they will bring, you have never imagined it. This will find expression in some of our new schools. That the best and brightest across the country should come together in one school and begin to look at how they can use their gifts for the transformation of their nation. And when we create that space, future generations will remember us for it. That we came, we saw an opportunity, and we gave the youth of this country an opportunity to blossom. And that is how the country changed. So when we look at STEM pathways and all the things that need to be done, it's not about me. It's about how we can take the vision of the president and use that to change the fortunes of this country. So any new ideas that I bring about is because I've been tasked with the responsibility to make sure the vision of the president comes through. So I come to you today as a humble servant of the people of Ghana, appealing to you today to join me in coming up with great ideas that will change the education space in this country forever. Appealing to you today to help in transforming our TVET landscape, something that has been championed by the senior minister. Now we have there are 17 ministries with TVET institutions, and this year they are all coming to the Ministry of Education, and the TVET service, not an Ghana Education Service. They are also going to have their Director General, and they are going to work We create a more robust vet system. Last Monday, I visited the school in Mass Pradason, Methodist Technical Institute, equipped with top-of-the-line machinery, tools for their school. So beautiful. Big workshops, empty spaces there. The headmaster comes to me and says, "Sir, I need one of the things. Look at the cell, the shelter. Look at those places where we stay. We don't have classroom space. And when we're doing academic subjects, we are under those the shelter that we see there. And it was not tidy. And I said, headmaster, your workshops are so spacious. Can I buy you stools for the students to sit on and do their English there?" He said, "Yeah, that would be a fantastic idea." The government is retooling TVET institutions, and with a little bit of innovation, we can change the TVET space and begin to change the fortunes of this country. We talk about STEM, we talk about TVET. We talk about the opportunity that we have for the African continental free trade and what it represents to all of us. We talk about initiatives that will allow us to truly transform the fortunes of our nation. Going back to the program for international student assessment, PISA, is something that we are working on so that we can be compared to other nations. Ensuring that there's accountability is something that is of immense importance. The National Research Fund bill has passed. Now we have a research fund that will contribute to the research, especially in tertiary institutions. Our nation will change, I believe, in our lifetime. Let me conclude. You know, I'm a teacher and a politician. In both professions, you don't have a job. So when you give the podium, so now I've reminded myself that I don't have to overstay my welcome. But I'll tell you one thing. The Lord Roosevelt said something, and I quote, "It is not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of things who have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strikes valiantly, who errs, who becomes short, falls short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming. But the man who strives and actually strives to do the things, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best notes, in the end, the triumph of high achievements, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while bearing grace, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Unquote. The President of the Republic is in the arena and is calling all of us to join him. And in fact, there may be swears, there may be death in our faces. By the end, we will know that we fought God into him, and I believe with God on our side, we win. And we'll be able to create a nation that 20 years from now, we look back on and say, what a great nation we have made. God is with us.